Hello, and welcome to Outdoorsy, or welcome to my YouTube channel. Depending on where you're watching this, you might be listening to the audio version of the podcast. You might be watching me over on YouTube, but wherever you are, hi, I'm Madeline. I'm your host, and I am on a mission to reclaim and redefine the term outdoorsy for everybody because I believe that everybody belongs in the outdoors. Now, today I want to talk about how to find the best, most affordable outdoor gear, whether that's for camping, hiking, biking, whatever your outdoor adventure is. Let's just talk about how to make this more affordable and accessible. Before we dive into things, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have not subscribed to my podcast, Outdoorsy, quite yet, please just search Outdoorsy wherever you get your podcast. If you're already listening to this, great. Just hit the subscribe button. That really helps me out. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe as well. So thank you so much in advance. And also, if you do hear anything in the background, that's just my daughter. She's just super vocal right now. She's going through a very fun phase where she's just discovering her little voice and discovered that it's really, really fun to sound like a tea kettle right now. So that's, if you hear that in the background, that's what's going on. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because it is that time of year, around this time every year, around Memorial Day weekend, people start talking about, you have to get this gear, you have to get that gear. Everybody's pulling out their camping gear that's been sitting in the garage for the winter season, dusting off all their stuff and seeing what needs to be replaced, what they need to get this year new. And everybody who hasn't had a chance really to explore the great outdoors, maybe you're just a beginner wanting to get into camping and hiking this year, or, you dipped your toes into it last year and you want to get a little bit more serious this year. Kind of wherever you are in your journey into the great outdoors and outdoor adventure, you might be thinking about, okay, what do I need to get next in order to make sure I have the right gear to adventure this year? And one of the things that I know is a huge barrier of entry for most people is the cost of outdoor gear. It's just expensive. Like it's an expensive hobby to get into. We talk about how hiking is the cheapest hobby to get into or running because you just have to put on shoes and go outdoors. But we all know that that's not actually true. Like, sure, most nature is free to get out into, but you still need stuff to get out there safely and comfortably. So I just want to acknowledge that I know that this is a big barrier of entry for a lot of people. And that's why I want to make this particular video and podcast episode, is to basically eliminate that barrier, or at least lower it as much as possible, and really tell y'all how to find, inexpensive gear, where to shop, and all the different strategies you can kind of approach to build out your gear garage or your gear closet in a very affordable and more approachable, more realistic way than what you might see on social media. Because I think that social media maybe tricks us a little bit into thinking that we all need fresh new gear every season, or fresh new gear every year, or we need the latest and greatest tent with the latest technology, or we need these new shoes because they're super cute and everybody's wearing them, or we need that particular brand of beanie because everybody's wearing it. And I just want to remind you that there's no way to look the part of being outdoorsy. As soon as you step foot outdoors, you are outdoorsy. So you don't need to look a certain way or to have certain gear, a certain brand to be worthy of being in the outdoors or doing certain adventures. Sure, there's going to be stuff that's highly technical that you absolutely need to accomplish a certain thing or to do a certain outdoor adventure, of course, always. But don't let social media trick you into thinking that you need to play into this overconsumption realm, right? So I want to talk about exactly how to find affordable and used gear. Now, again, I want to touch on why outdoor gear is expensive in the first place. I saw a post the other day that was like, oh, if you're looking to get into camping, one of the best places you can look is Shein. Go to Shein for your camping gear. It's so cheap. And it made me really sad to see because sure, you can go to Shein, you can go to Temu, you can go to Amazon, Walmart, all these places and find gear that's super, super cheap. But that's what it is it's cheap. And it's probably going to fall apart after a few uses or after a few seasons of use. The reason why quality outdoor gear is so expensive is because it's supposed to endure tough conditions. It's supposed to stand up to the test of time under the most extreme circumstances, dirt, rain, sweat, all of those things, right? It's supposed to live a long life. And if you take care of your gear, you can even extend that life even further. So, like, you shouldn't have to be buying new stuff every year. It should be something that you invest in one time, maybe twice over the course of a lifetime of adventure, and it sticks with you unless you're somebody who's like going out every single day, every single weekend, and just like using it to death. A lot of your gear should last your entire life. Like, the running joke is everybody's Coleman camp stoves are like from before they were born because they just last so long. They're amazing. They're just one of those dependable things that last a really long time. And if you take care of your gear, if you go get it repaired, if you patch things, if you learn how to sew, like, you can extend the life of it. So yes, it is more of an upfront cost, but if you look at cost per use over the lifetime of use, it ends up being way more reasonable than having to repurchase the same kind of shoddily made stuff year over year over year and having to deal with stuff breaking, stuff falling apart, and that kind of thing. So that is why quality camping gear is expensive, is it's supposed to just last forever. And then before you even start thinking about like how to find stuff for cheap or where to look, and I'm going to get into that in just a second, I do want to challenge you to ask yourself why you think that you need to buy something new. Not just, is it a nice to have? Is it because you saw someone on TikTok using it? Like, I know we're all guilty of this, but ask yourself, like, is this something that I genuinely need? And can I make do with something I already have rather than buying something new? Like, a really good example is you probably, if you're just car camping, you don't need to necessarily go out and buy like a camping set of pots and pans or like a camping mess kit. You can just go into your kitchen, grab some pots and pans, grab some plates and utensils, and use those camping because you're not like trying to optimize for a super ultra light backpack or anything like that. You don't need anything technical. You're basically just cooking outside. So you can just take what you got already, as long as it fits on your little stove, call it a day. So like there's a lot of stuff like that where you probably already own stuff that can be repurposed and maybe don't necessarily have to buy anything or rent anything. Outdoor culture online, like outdoor creators online, kind of make it feel like in order to participate in the great outdoors, you need to be constantly consuming. And that's just like not it. You just need to go outside. I guarantee you can like repurpose a lot of the stuff that you've got already. But in case you are like, no, Madeline, I actually do need new stuff. Let's talk about all the different strategies you can approach to save money and do this in a more accessible way. So I personally am fully convinced that almost everybody you know, to some extent, has something in their garage or in their closet that you can borrow to help you go adventure outdoors. So like thinking about your friends, your family, your coworkers, your neighbors, like local community groups. I can guarantee that if you start to put some feelers out there, you're going to find so many people who already have stuff that you can borrow. Even if they're like, "Oh no, I use this tent like all the time." I bet you there's one weekend where they're not using that tent and you can borrow that tent. Like, I think everybody has stuff in their garages and their closets that's just collecting dust. There's a lot of people who will buy stuff new and try an activity and decide it's not for them, and they'll just like hang on to that stuff in storage. Like, I bet you anything, someone in your neighborhood has bought snowshoes at some point, took those snowshoes out, hated snowshoeing, and now those snowshoes are just chilling in their garage. Like, I think everybody is guilty of doing that, is like getting too excited about a particular new hobby or new activity, and then you realize that it's not for you, or you lose interest, or like whatever it might be. So put feelers out there into your community. Ask your friends, ask your family, ask your coworkers, your neighbors, who has stuff to borrow, because I guarantee you're going to be able to find people that have stuff. And like the other cool thing here is you can test out different brands and different types of equipment, right? So if you are not ready to make a big purchase, like let's talk like a tent, for example, if you're like, I don't know if I want like a 2-person tent or a 4-person tent. I don't know if I want this particular brand yet. Like, I'm not totally sure what I need or want. By just borrowing from people, you're not wasting money on something that you end up hating, right? Like if you take out your neighbor's tent and you're like, this is way too small. I need something bigger. You haven't just wasted a bunch of money on a tent that you're not going to use. You tried it out, decided you didn't want it, and now you can make a more informed purchasing decision, which I think is so valuable. So the other way to do this also is renting gear. So I think this is like a pretty underutilized resource that a lot of people maybe don't know about. And I kind of think it's a marketing issue, frankly, but you can rent gear from a ton of places. There's like a lot of gear shops that offer rentals, but there's also like really small places, but there's also like bigger places like REI that do rentals as well. So you can rent like big ticket items. And this is a good opportunity, one, to try new stuff that you're not sure you like or you want, but it's also just a more sustainable way of going about purchasing new gear, using gear, because a lot of the time, a lot of us are only going camping a handful of times a year. There's maybe not necessarily a need to own a tent of your own, right? Or maybe you don't have space in your apartment to store a kayak, right? But you want to use them, so you can just rent it instead. If it's something that you're not going to be using like all the time, you kind of don't need to own it yourself. Like just rent it as you need it. And that can be a more affordable, more approachable way, especially if funds are like currently tight, but in the future you want to have a kayak of your own. Maybe right now it makes more sense to just rent it at a lower cost, and then you can save up over time and buy one of your own when you have the space, you have the money. So like it's a really good option, right? So if you're trying out a new activity and you don't know if for sure you're going to like it or not, like imagine buying a whole kayak and finding out you hate kayaking, just rent one instead. If you're traveling a lot and you're just like not home, or you don't want to haul bulky gear around with you, just rent it wherever you're going instead of schlepping it all the way with you. If you don't want to store bulky gear, if you don't have the space and you're just figuring out what works for you, it's such a safe, lower cost way of trying out different things without that commitment. And I would highly, highly recommend renting stuff out first, especially if it's a new activity for you, especially then. So I mentioned REI already. There's also Outdoors Geek. And then a lot of local libraries actually have rental options. And if you just go into Google and search like outdoor gear rental, you will find a bunch of places that have that available near you. Like a lot of mom and pop shops, you'll be surprised, will have them. Sometimes even your local trail nonprofits will have rental libraries or gear libraries where you can check stuff out if you're going on an adventure with them. For example, the Washington Trails Association does this. For if you sign up for one of their activities, you can gain access to their gear library and check it out. In Western Washington and the Seattle area, we have a ton of options for rentals. There's Gear Garage, there's Ascent Outdoor Rentals, there's the Mountaineers Gear Library if you're a Mountaineers member, Gear House, Back 40. There's just a ton of options. All of our major universities also, so if you're a college student, you can also gain access to their rental gear libraries. There's so many options. Just you have to do a little bit of research, because I really do think that people are not great about marketing their rental opportunities. Contact local gear shops too. Sometimes they have it that's just like not listed on their website, but they'll be happy to rent stuff out to you because it's a good sales tactic, honestly. So yeah, check out all those places. And then the other piece of this is, so after you've kind of gone through, okay, who can I borrow from? I'm going to rent this, I'm going to rent that, and you're ready to buy something, just shop used and secondhand. I mean, there are so many places, both in person and online, where you can buy gently used secondhand outdoor stuff. Because like I said, everybody's got stuff just collecting dust in their garages. There's a huge secondhand market and resale marketplace, both online and in person. So there's a ton of stuff out there if you just look for it. So Patagonia does their like worn wear marketplace. REI also has a worn marketplace. Again, right now there's currently a boycott on REI. The REI union has called for a boycott. So like hold off on buying anything from REI for the time being, and check the status of the boycott if you can. I recognize boycotts are privileged. That's a whole separate topic. I've posted on social a little bit about that particular issue. But if you are looking for something that is, used, they do have a used marketplace. Let's see, what are some of the other ones? Gear Trade, Articles in Common, Outdoor Gear Exchange, Out and Back Outdoor, Campman, Wonderland Gear Exchange, If you search for, secondhand used gear shops in my area on Google, like you will find stuff. But I have links to all of the ones that I just mentioned in my blog post that is linked in the description here. So if you want to just click through and browse through those places, they're all great marketplaces that are actually like very user friendly. And then if all else fails, just go to traditional general secondhand marketplaces. Facebook Marketplace, you will find so much good stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I know we all hate Facebook, but the marketplace feature, 10 out of 10. Amazing. OfferUp is another one of those. eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Craigslist, all of those different places you can find just gently used stuff that people are selling. There's also like, if you get tapped into local communities, like again, specifically on Facebook, you can find like local gear swaps. You can find Facebook groups that are dedicated to gear exchange, selling and buying secondhand gear. There's usually like hiking and backpacking and camping groups on Facebook you can get tapped into and, try to buy something or sell something there. There's just so many options. You just kind of have to go a little bit out of your way sometimes to find those places. And then if all else fails, just like go to your local thrift store, right? There's going to be tons of good stuff there. And even if it's not specifically outdoor gear, like I mentioned before, you can find stuff that can be repurposed for your usage. So like go to Value Village, pick up a bunch of like cheapy, plates and bowls and utensils and stuff and make that your camping mess kit. You don't have to buy like a fancy new ultralight mess kit if you're just like car camping, right? Just go to Value Village, go to Goodwill, grab some stuff, pull it together. So check those out. And then finally, I would say like estate sales and garage sales, hidden gems. You can find a lot of really good stuff there too. The only things that I would recommend not buying secondhand are things that are like have to do with safety, right? So like climbing ropes, for example, or like climbing harnesses, helmets, even like heavily used hiking boots. There's certain things that you kind of want to assess to make sure that they're still going to be safe for you and comfortable. And then anything that like requires waterproofing or is supposed to keep you dry. So if you are buying a tent used, for example, you definitely want to pull it out and inspect all the seals, all the zippers, make sure there's no big holes or things that need to be repaired. If you're fine with repairing it, like go for it, but just be aware of those types of things because we don't want you getting injured. We don't want you being in danger or just uncomfortable. We don't want you getting wet if you're supposed to be in a waterproof tent. And then finally, if you need to buy new, just shop small, shop local. Go to Google, type in gear store, find what comes up next. You don't have to shop at a big box store like REI or Walmart to get outdoor gear. You can find local gear shops that usually, honestly, have better deals. Like, I don't know. Whenever I have gone to local gear shops, everything is pretty much the same price as a big box store. Like sometimes it's marked up a little bit, but sometimes they also have like killer sales going on. But my favorite thing of going to like local gear shops is that the staff is always super knowledgeable about what you need. And they can also give you recommendations for like your specific activity. So if you're like, hey, I'm planning to do this hike in this area and you're at a local gear shop near that trailhead, they might recommend, X, Y, and Z for that particular hike because they're like, oh yeah, it can get super muddy on the trail. You're going to want some nice thick wool socks, or you're going to want waterproof boots, or hey, do you have boots already? Here's some waterproof spray to help seal out that moisture. So they're going to have tips and tricks for you like that. And I just really like that. And I also like the ability to support the local economy of wherever you're recreating. I just think that's fantastic. So if you do got to buy new, that's where to go. So all in all, that's kind of like the rundown of how to find used, how to find affordable, how to find secondhand outdoor gear. It does not always have to be new. It does not always have to be super technical. It doesn't have to be the latest and greatest. Most outdoor gear is going to last years and years and years and years and years. And there's not really a need to have like the latest and greatest technology or highly technical stuff unless you are at that point or you're doing an activity that's like super highly technical and specialized. Now, I think that if you go online, you'll see people recommending gear and clothes and things. It's all become like very intertwined with consumer culture. I mean, I talk about what gear I love all the time, and inherently that then puts this pressure on people or gives this perception that they need to buy new stuff. Like, and that's how a lot of outdoor creators, how a lot of people online make money is selling stuff to you. And a lot of the time it's trying to be helpful. Like whenever I talk about my gear recommendations or my clothing recommendations to people, I'm trying to be helpful. I'm not trying to tell you that you absolutely need this thing, or I want you to go buy this thing that you don't need. It's more so, hey, if you have a need for this, here's where I would recommend you look. It's definitely not a bad thing that we talk about gear or we get excited about the latest and greatest gadgets, tools, gears, outfit brands. Like I get really excited when there's cute new pink hiking gear out. Like we all have these things. I don't want to like demonize this at all. It's part of the industry, it's part of the community, but it is important for us to acknowledge that like it does create this culture of like pressure of like feeling like we have to buy stuff to fit into the outdoorsy community, the outdoorsy culture. And that's just not true. Please just throw on whatever like raggedy old clothes you have from college, throw on some sneakers that you've had forever and hit the trail. Do not wait until you have the right gear or the right look or the right stuff. Just whatever you need to feel comfortable and safe to get outdoors is enough. You don't have to like look a certain way or have a certain, set of things. Just start getting out there. And the more that you go out and enjoy the outdoors, the more you will figure out what gear you need and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So just remember that. Use what you already have as much as you can. Borrow gear, rent gear, shop secondhand whenever possible. Start small. We are all welcome in the outdoors. I want you to feel like you can take up space and that you belong out here because you do. So do whatever you got to do to make sure that getting outdoors is accessible and comfortable for you, and just get on out there because that's my main goal. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you have any other recommendations for great rental stores, used gear shops, whether that's online or in person, let me know in the comments. And if this was useful for you, please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment, let me know. And yeah, until next time, I hope you get out there in whatever way feels good to you. And just remember, you belong out there.